Good afternoon, everybody. I appreciate you guys being here. I want to apologize for the sparse representation from the Augusta Richmond County Commission. We have several colleagues that are on vacation. Others are scattered about. We have one particularly that had a lot of input to add, and he will be here shortly, and that's Commissioner Sean Franham. But, Madam Clerk, let's call this session to order, and we're ready to proceed.
Okay. I think the administrator, Mr. Mayor, is the moderator for this one.
You got it. Administrator Dowse, the floor is yours, madam.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. Thank you for that, Ms. Bonner. Mayor Johnson, just to bring to your remembrance, as well as those who are watching and in attendance today, on Tuesday, April 2nd, the Augusta Commission approved scheduling a work session with the Aviation Commission, who I'm pleased to state majority of them, if not all, are present here today, so thank you for that. And the Augusta Commission to discuss all slated powers, duties, responsibilities, pay, and things under the Augusta Code. We have our Human Resources Department, our Augusta Aviation Executive Director, Mr. Herbert Judon, as well as our Law Department present. I've also presented an agenda for us to follow. It's a fluid document, so feel free to adjust it as necessary based upon how the conversation flows. But just to give the body a brief history of the Augusta Aviation Commission and the Augusta Regional Airport and how we got here today. As we all know, from an economic standpoint, both the Augusta aviation history as well as how it has played a pivotal role in Augusta's economic development of the CSRA is a value to our community. When most people think of the airport, they think of hellos and goodbyes at the gate and watching their loved ones go and come. But many do not realize the enormous economic impact the airport has had on our community. Bushfield is a part of that, as well as Daniel Field. While we're not specifically speaking of Daniel Field today, they both reign supreme in our aviation of Augusta. But in 2000, Bushfield was renamed the Augusta Regional Airport, and this was purely to reflect its representation of the rapidly growing premise within Augusta. Right now we have many direct flights, and the airport continues to do many construction projects to add to how well they are able to move about residents as well as visitors. Today, the Augusta Regional Airport continues to take care of business. In 2011, their statistics were impressive. They moved more than 500,000 commercial service passengers, and as of late, they continue to be a main point to get people to and from Augusta during our busiest time, and that is during the Augusta National. They have 12 members on the Augusta Aviation Commission, which are appointed by district, as well as 2 ex officio members, which is our own Commissioner Francine Scott and Commissioner Brandon Garrett. Today, the expert team at the Augusta Aviation Commission is dedicated to providing world-class charters, aerial tours. They provide awesome maintenance and have multiple partnerships with rental car agencies as well as participants that transport passengers, as well as transient individuals throughout the community. That then, sir, leaves you with the history, a brief history of the Augusta Aviation, and you have before you, as well as there are copies to the public, a brief overview of their bylaws. And so I would now like to open up the floor should there be any questions or concerns regarding how you would like, or if you would like to see any changes made in the bylaws, sir.
Thank you, Administrator Dowse. Commissioner Franham.
I'll just start the question, just because, I mean, I want the public to understand this too. You said there's 12 members. They're appointed by the commission and state, correct? Is that what you just?
Yes, sir. That's
clarity.
what I stated.
And then as far as these individuals, they serve on the terms of the commissioners, correct? Like, do their time the same as the commission time? Like, is my person up at the end? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. They are concurrent with the appointing commissioner. However, if they stay on until they're either reappointed or someone else is appointed at that point.
But currently, are the 10 members on the other 2 are state, so the 10 members, are they on the same time frame as the commissioners?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That was my first question to kind of get started, and I'll follow up some more. Thank you.
Madam Administrator, it appears to me that having 12 members is an even number. How are they able to work out in the event there's a tie in their voting?
Mayor Johnson, I would like for you to direct that question to our law department, who is familiar with how the organization handles their judicial proceedings.
Right.
Good morning. Can y'all hear me? I'm sorry, my voice
Yes.
is a little. Okay. For the Aviation Commission, they vote on theirs is actually majority rule. So for them, it would be 7 out of 12. So they don't have ties.
They don't have ties.
Correct.
So 7 out of 12,
Yes,
majority. Okay. Thank you.
How many do they have to conduct business?
That also requires 7.
So 7 constitutes a quorum. Okay.
I mean, this might not be the time for this, but I'll go ahead and ask it, I guess because the chairman's coming up. Did the Aviation Commission as a body discuss these bylaws before? Like, is their spokesman going to kind of give us their thoughts, or is that not even been discussed at their level yet? Or do you know?
I can't speak to what was discussed. I think that would be a better question for the chairman.
Okay, thank you. I'll wait.
All right. Administrator Downs, can you come here a second? All right. Are we prepared for the chairman?
Yes, sir. Who can provide the Augusta Regional Airport overview? First
Thank
up
you so
would be
much.
our chair, Mr. Dan Troutman, or
Mr.
their
Troutman,
chair.
good day, sir. I don't mind for the record. I guess let's stay official. For the record, please state your name, address, and all that good stuff.
Yes, sir. My name's Dan Troutman. I reside at 1339 Wingfield Street in Augusta, Georgia. Anything else I need to say?
I think that's it, sir. You have the floor.
All right. I've been asked to kind of provide a brief overview of, I guess, how we operate. And I'd like to first point out that the airport is a really good thing for the city. We provide, by Georgia DOT's 2022 numbers, an annual revenue to the city of $285 million in economic efforts here. And what I don't think a lot of people understand is that comes from pretty much a self-sustaining operation. I've talked to several people that talk about how many tax dollars we get from the city, and actually we're self-sustaining. The funds that we operate out of are funds that we generate. There's many sources of these funds. It can be as simple as if you go rent a car, there's a fee added to every rental, and we get a few dollars out of that. To every employment, we can get, depending on how many stops on the route, $3 or something out of each person. But basically, the businesses that operate out there, the renting a hangar spot for an airplane to be stored there, to pumping a gallon of gas, to all of that is where our revenue is derived from. We are not recipient of any direct tax. I do believe several SPLOSTs ago there was a particular project that did get some funding out of SPLOST, but we basically, through a lot of different sources, operate off of money we derive. And another thing about that is a lot of that money comes with a lot of strings attached to it. If it's derived from this source, it has to be spent in a certain area. If it's derived from this source, it has to be spent in that area. So, for example, we've just completed what we call the CONRAC. It's the new rental car facility. That money that was spent to build that came from saving up the money from all the rentals. We could not take that and do the thing. Mr. Judon's probably going to talk about gates 3 and 4, which has been a great thing for us. That money had to come from another source. So there's a lot of times that we've got to pile it up to get enough to go do what we want to do with it. But the staff has done a great job planning ahead. There's 20-year plans. There's, they're always looking out way ahead, and they bring that to the commission for us to discuss and us to move forward on. We get a lot of grants through, again, the staff going and asking for them, showing why it would be beneficial. And with every grant comes some more of those strings. They're called grant assurances. And basically, there's usually in the range of 20 grant assurances, and some of them are that you'll continue to keep the funds separate. You'll use them for what they're supposed to. You'll continue to operate an airport. You may all remember when a little city up on the lake, Chicago, just went out and closed their airport. They got away with it with the city and the citizens, but the FAA had their final say, and they had to turn around and repay, in some cases, 20 years of grants back to the FAA because they didn't continue to operate as an airport. So it's a very involved process, and the staff, we just haven't had any problems. They've been audited many times by EPA, by GDOT, and we have an annual financial audit by an outside accounting firm. And as long as I've been on the board, those have all come back clean and no issues. We've got a lot of both public and private involved in what we do. We have airlines, we have rental car companies, we have food service vendors. A lot of people think that the airport and the staff has something to do with the plane being late or the plane breaking, or as an aviation commission, we don't, or as an aviation provider, we don't have anything to do with that. Yeah, the building breaks, that's ours. But everybody else is a tenant. Delta's a tenant. American's a tenant. They all have their own, and they do their thing. We provide them space. They pay money for that space, and they're just a tenant. No different than all the airplanes that are hangared out there. And then we have guests that come in. You pointed out the Masters earlier. All year round, there's private aircraft out there. Certainly, there's more during certain times of the year, but for the most part, we're a home to a lot of business aircraft where a lot of training goes on. A lot of military training. We provide a lot of fuel for military training flights that end up landing here. And we've been the site of an emergency landing site for at least 2 military training flights, I assume they were. They don't tell us, but that had breakdowns and had to do emergency landings here and then fix them here since I've been on the commission. So we think we provide a great service for the community, and we strive to do a really good job with it. The business development, we push business development at the airport. I know the mayor and some other commissioners were out there for the groundbreaking for Standard Aero. That's a huge project, not only a construction project, but when they get it built, staffing it up with jobs. And I'm certain Mr. John can speak to those numbers better than me, but their average pay, I did listen to their president when he came to meet with us, their average salary is over $100,000 for the workers out there. So that's a good group to have here paying taxes. So I think it's important to understand that we want to be a good neighbor. There's times, and we're talking with planning and zoning now to get a better overlay of what's allowed and not allowed. FAA has certain restrictions in and around airports. There's these forms that get filled out, and we're trying to streamline that process so that if people are looking to see what they can put up around the airport, it would be easier. That's the brief overview I wanted to give. I'm glad to answer any questions that I can. I'll do my best.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Guilfoyle.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you for serving on the airport, as well as all the appointees taking their time out of their day to volunteered to do that. We do appreciate that. As far as the Augusta Richmond County Commission, what can we do to help provide a better service? I know that we provide legal, we provide HR, and procurement that I'm aware of. What can we do to make our side of the help better?
You also provide, one more thing you do provide is all the employees, although we pay for them all, you all provide the payroll and the retirement and that as well.
Finance.
So, but the one thing that we have approached a time or two that I think makes really good sense is we look at how procurement and plan review goes. When we prepare plans out there, they're done through a third party. We have engineers that work, engineers and architects, and they're reviewed by the FAA. If GDOT's involved, they're reviewed by GDOT. They've got all their parameters in it, requirements for it. And the money, we have to have the money there before we can go do it. And it just seems to be that just adds another layer of bureaucracy, if you will. Well, everything's bureaucracy, but that's just one more layer. Even the fees that the designers have to have an independent fee verification, evaluation, not a verification. I call it IFE, that goes out that the FAA has to approve. And I think some way of streamlining the plan review and the procurement would be extremely beneficial, especially on the bigger standalone projects. I think we lose some people interested in bidding it because they, in their mind, the red tape, can't get a change order approved, can't get a check made, those things too. Just because not only does it's got to go through out there, then our staff's got to get through it and make sure the engineer and all, then it's got to come to our commission to get approved. Then it comes, and it just on and on and on. And I think if there's anything that we could work with the commission with to do any one thing, from my point of view, that would be it. I think if you ask several other commissioners, they may have something else, but I would think of a single area, that would be the best.
Okay, I appreciate that insight on that. Madam, can you mind if I direct my statement, Madam Administrator?
No, sir, go ahead.
Interim Administrator Dowse, you heard what was stated from the chairman. Is there anything that we could do to get better on the procure side? Because with me serving on the Daniel Field Airport and as the ex officio, timeline is the essence. And that's a very important factor, especially with grant money, because you only allot it so much. Right. And once you do your due diligence of doing the design work, you only have an X amount of time to get it procured. And if we are being delayed, if we are the one that's holding it up, we need to do a better job. And so, Madam Administrator, if you can, let's focus on that issue. Out of, 4, that's the one issue. That should be a simple fix.
I think there's got to be a better mousetrap because it's really not any one person that's not doing their job. It's just one more level that has to happen. Then if it misses a cycle, and just like we ran into this with the gates 3 and 4 on the timing, we had that all planned out and scheduled out to be complete before Masters this year. And because of planning and zoning review and a delay there, it didn't get permitted. The bid was delayed a little bit, and part of that was on the bids that came. Again, when I say this, I'm not pointing any one finger, but it got delayed. We still had time. Then we couldn't get the building permit because we couldn't get that out. So then we ended up having to spend some money to make it usable Masters Week, because as you know, that's the week, that we get by far the most traffic of any one week.
Same way with Daniel Field.
Yes, that's right. So it created an unnecessary both financial burden and certainly the staff. I mean, several of the staff members were out there the day before the big rush on Friday cleaning floors and putting this just to help get it what we want to show for the folks coming into town.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Sean Franham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Chairman, thank you for that speech, and that was pretty good to hear all that y'all have going on. I guess my first question is, has the board, the commission, airport commission, have y'all had any discussions about possible changes or recommendations to us
For the,
for anything? I mean, you knew this meeting was coming. Did y'all have?
we certainly, I mean, you mentioned earlier the bylaws. We have talked about the fact that there's probably some areas to update the bylaws. We've talked about having an internal work session on the bylaws. That's not been scheduled at this point because this got bannered about, and we thought,
Yeah.
might want to see where y'all.
Yeah.
Let's face it, although we're an enterprise by ourselves, 10 of the 12 members are appointed by you
Right.
folks, so we need to coordinate. But yes, we've talked about that. Purchasing, procurement procedures has been discussed, obviously, more than once. Those are things that we can't do without the support and the coordination with the commission down here. So both of those. The stormwater fee has been discussed, and at least I don't know that I speak for the whole commissioner, Mr. Judine, but I got comfortable once it was shown to me where everything to do with FAA and government wasn't assessed a fee, but the private sector sides was. That made sense as a good, because the one thing we don't want to do, and it predated me getting on the commission, but I know there was a time that there was an investigation into misappropriation of funds. You know, they're getting redirected. Diversion of funds is the FAA rule, and we just don't want to ever do anything that subjects the authority or the enterprise or the downtown commission here to doing anything wrong. And like I indicated in my opening remarks, the audit by an outside firm since I've been on the commission has come back clean every time. So that's a good thing.
How often do y'all change that audit company, or have you changed it?
I can't speak to that. Been the same one since I've been on the board. It's been the same one, so I don't know. Yeah.
Malden Jenkins?
Yes,
Got it. As far as voting members, is there anyone else that are voting members of any, I mean, does the staff or city employees vote?
No, sir.
Okay, good.
We have as you heard from legal, we have to have 7 to have a quorum. And then even if there's only 7 present, there has to be 7 yeses. It takes 7 yay votes to pass anything.
Gotcha. Well, you know, there's been, I guess, some issues over the past few months and things of discussion, and I think that's kind of why we're here. And for me, like, I believe that we should, you know, kind of task y'all to have that meeting in the next, like, 60 days or something, and, like, come back with kind of a wish list of recommendations, because we want to help you, we want to hurt you, and I don't believe that the commission ought to, like, take control or think I don't want y'all to think, my opinion is we don't take control. I think there's just a checks and balances and a support mechanism that we need to make sure is there for you as well as for us. Because, I mean, obviously the one thing that is kind of the concern, I guess, from some of the commissioners, maybe not all, is the fact that the salary of the director, in a sense, has increased significantly and basically not signed off by this body, and how that happened, what that looks like moving forward, because that's the kind of the crux of why we're here, in a sense.
Well, I would ask a question of the commission downtown. I mean, we operate on advice of council, as y'all pointed out earlier. We use your council, I mean, the city's, I guess Richmond County's council. And we felt like that we were operating within the bylaws on that employee, and that's what we did. I guess I would ask the Downtown Commission if there's things they'd like us to consider in the bylaws as well, clarifying and or modifying. If that could be provided to us when we have this meeting, it would be beneficial, because, you know, every other employee is part of HR and goes through and does. Right. The executive director is responsible to the board, and that's what they've done. And we didn't do that willy-nilly. There was salary studies commissioned and comparisons to and so on and so forth. And it wasn't without a lot of conversation this year on the thing. It is every year. So we felt like we're doing our due diligence in doing that and looking at what, anytime you have, and he's standing right behind, or sitting right behind me, I'm talking about it, but, anytime you've got an employee, if you don't evaluate what he's able or she would be able to go get somewhere else or whatever, you're kind of foolish, because if you don't keep in line with that and you like the person, you're apt to lose them. So, I mean, we looked at that as well. So we felt like it was reasonable, or it wouldn't have ended up happening.
Well, and I agree with that, and that's why, like, for me, like, we need to be compared airports to airports, not city employees to airports, and that's my concern on commission even kind of getting into this a little bit.
Yep.
And even having the discussion. So I would just hope that, because I don't know who to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, and I'm not trying to offend anybody when I ask this. Can the airport have their own legal counsel and not use our legal counsel?
Not
All right, I think I'm going to direct that to a legal counsel, attorney.
In the past, they have had their own outside legal counsel. However, what happened was outside legal counsel would come up with something, and then it had to come back inside for general counsel to review everything and approve.
Okay, I think that's a discussion we need to have.
Well, we've done, here's what we've done for 2025. We've put the money in the budget to have a dedicated counsel reimbursed through still the staff of general counsel. So that way we're not, I mean, Ms. Mack has been the representative as long as I've been on the commission, and she's pulled in at least 6, 7 directions and timing and whatnot. So our needs have gotten more. Our needs have gotten more involved with a lot of the contract reviews and stuff. So we've actually put in the preliminary, it's not approved yet, but we're working on the budget. And there is a line item in there for us to be able to reimburse a dedicated employee. But it was explained to me that if we had counsel, it had to be part of general counsel by statute or state, or I don't know which it is, or everything had to be reviewed by that anyway. So that's why we put that in that way.
Yeah, I just think with all that we have on our side right now, with people leaving and things of that nature, that discussion needs to happen. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You got it, sir. Interim Administrator, I'm going to let you chime in. I'm going to come back to you, Commissioner Guilfoyle, Interim Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. I wanted to speak to a couple of the concerns that Chairman Troutman just brought up, one of which he mentioned stormwater. Do know that the stormwater conversation is ongoing because it affects not only the Augusta Regional Airport, but also Daniel Field Airport. And so please note that the Finance Department, the Administrator's Office, as well as the Law Department are working with both of the airports to try to see what type of resolution we can come to. So please await that decision or that recommendation to come.
Yes,
he also noted the cost difference because the airport is charged a indirect cost allocation because of the internal services they use, which includes human resources, information technology, some maintenance needs, the fire department, the finance department, and so on and so forth. While they do not receive a general fund allocation, they do pay in accordance with what the federal guidelines do allow for that. And then he also mentioned his procurement challenges. As we all know, the airport's procurement matters can be tedious. They could be highly specific in nature, and that alone requires some additional time and some additional scrutiny. But I would encourage Director Judon to speak regularly with our procurement director, with the procurement department as a whole, even with the finance department. Should you incur any delays, and if those continue to be a problem, please notify me as soon as possible to ensure we can keep your projects on track. Everyone understands the economic value the airport plays to the community. We want to make certain that that is not hindered in any way. So please be open when it comes to your needs and communicate those challenges.
Thank you, Interim Administrator Dowse. Commissioner Guilfoyle, before I get to you, I want to ask a question. This is going to be directed to our legal counsel. As I understand, our Augusta Aviation is a commission and not an authority. You know, the Coliseum Authority, they have a little bit more leeway as to how they govern themselves. Ultimately, it's been, I guess, interpreted to me that the decisions made on behalf of the Airport Commission come before the Augusta Commission for ratification or for approval. Is that true? And would it perhaps be best to have a conversation about moving to an authority instead of, because you mentioned hiring an attorney and having them to have the ability to get things done. Attorney Mack?
Sorry about that. Well, like you said, this is they're a commission, which makes them, for Augusta's sake, a department. So it's basically just like utilities or the landfill for us.
Okay.
And so that means everything, like with our other directors, everything has to come through you all for approval.
Okay.
If they were an authority, they would be a separate legal entity. They would have their own attorney. They would govern themselves. So they wouldn't have to come to the Augusta Commission for approval on anything.
HR2, yes. So
HR2, they would be completely.
So how would the employees, would they still be city employees?
No.
And how would that work for all the vested years of service for the employees that are out there?
That I do not know how that would be affected, but
I think if that went that direction, I think it would have to be, the authority would have the employees and they would have to pick up and have at least the same benefits or better. I think there would be some separation anxieties that go on there, but that would need to be addressed appropriately if that is the direction.
Okay, Administrator.
Mayor Johnson, I speak the same sentiments as what Chairman Troutman just stated. If that is the will of the body, I would strongly suggest you direct a fully developed plan to provide you with some options as to what this could look like if the airport went from a commission and a department of the city to now an authority. Because yes, it would affect their employees that currently receive benefits from Augusta and those that even have projected benefits such as retirement and vacation time and sick time. So if that is the direction that we go, I caution us in doing so with as much information as possible prior to.
Yeah, and I think this is where, when I said before about, having the commission, the airport commission, having a 60 days, kind of meet together and then we appointed these individuals to explain to us kind of the good, the bad, what their thoughts are, and I think bring back, recommendations or whatnot, because I think that we're kind of at this crossroad where I kind of feel like this is a discussion that needs to be had, just based on what's happened, whether it's salaries, whether it's HR, whether it's procurement, we're at a crossroad, and I just think these discussions need to happen, and hear the Aviation Commission and their thoughts as well.
All right. Chair recognizes Commissioner Wayne Guilfoyle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chairman Troutman, as far as the appointments that you have serving on the board, is everyone showing up, or do we need to reappoint anybody to help?
I don't think we've had anybody that's, continued absence at all. We
That's
have
good.
in past years, and obviously certain people miss now and then, but I don't recall a single full commission meeting that we haven't had a quorum present. The attendance records are out there. I'm sure the clerk, Ms. Harris, could provide them, but I'm not aware of any particular member that's
Well, that
habitually
speaks
absent.
volumes there about the quality of the commission out on the airport. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair recognizes Commissioner Francine Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to say, before we go and start looking at regional or authority, I think we need to address what we are here to address right now and see if the problems that we are having, we should address those and then look at if this needs to be an authority, because right now, if this is live, everybody and the news going to say that we're getting ready to make Augusta Regional Airport an authority. There may be some pros and cons, but I think we should at least stick where we are today and at the subject that we are addressing.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right. Madam Administrator, let's move on down through the agenda. I think Executive Director Jadon.
Sure,
Next.
that's correct. So now I'll call to the podium Executive Director, Mr. Herbert Judon.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, staff, administrator. So my points this morning are kind of going down a different direction, just kind of talking about some of the accomplishments of the airport, some of the things we've done. And I'm going to, as I go through each one, there's probably 6 or 7 things I'm going to talk about that we've done the last year and a half or so, and kind of expand and also talk to you kind of the purpose or kind of what we're getting out of some of these changes. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, as Chairman Troutman mentioned, the gates 3 and 4 expansion, which we did the ribbon cutting in May of this year. And so what the purpose of this project, although we got a little bit of additional square footage in the airport, but what it did, it actually built up a portion of the airport to allow us to bring on 2 new passenger boarding bridges. So if you come into the boarding area now, you've got 4 complete passenger boarding bridges. And what that means for us from a customer standpoint is it creates a more professional, a more efficient way to get onto the airplane. You don't get exposed to the elements. It creates a security corridor for those that are that may not be able-bodied, wheelchaired, et cetera. It's a huge amenity. It also positions our airport for growth as well for future airlines or for our existing airlines to add additional flights and flexibility. So we're very ecstatic about that particular project. The second one I'll highlight is the consolidated rental car facility, which the chairman also talked about. Again, that one was paid for by the user fees, the rental car user fees. This was about a $9.5 million project. And if you come to the airport as you're approaching on Doug Bernard Parkway, you may see the little road off to the right, but that's where the rental car facility is. This facility is a service facility. So what they do in this facility, they wash the cars, they refuel the cars, they store vehicles. They do some very light maintenance on the vehicles. This is another growth in the airport. This is the first step on a series of steps that will enhance the entire rental car operation. So what you'll see in the coming years is an additional access roadway to access the rental cars. And we're going to also move the rental car operation from where it's at now to the north end of the building. You may be familiar with the taxi cabs park over where the current credit card lot is, but in the future that will be the rental car facility, and it'll be a canopied, a covered facility. So again, the consolidated rental car facility is one step on a series of landside or rental car upgrades. Last year, about a year and a half ago, we initiated the first airplane charger in the state of Georgia. And so this is a new technology in terms of electric airplanes. We actually had a demo that came through Augusta a couple of months ago. So we are kind of on the cutting edge in terms of some of the technology that's out there. We also, at the same time, opened up car charging stations. So if you come to the airport, in our employee parking lot as well as in our paid parking lot, you have the opportunity, if you have an EV, electric vehicle, to charge at Augusta Regional Airport. One of the big projects that will be coming before the Aviation Commission and the Augusta Commission in the next quarter, which is an important project, and I know we're talking about timing of things, is a security checkpoint expansion. So right now we have 2 access points as you go through the TSA through the security lane. So this new project will add 2 additional screening lanes for a total of 4. And I know we've talked about Master's operation quite a bit and just growing the airport for more airline service. This will be a significant project. We're excited about this. Again, even just for Masters, although it's 1 or 2 weeks of the year, but just to have these additional lanes are significant. We actually don't have the amount of traffic right now to warrant all of the personnel, that TSA and equipment that they would normally put in the lane. But one of my personal goals is to try to lobby and politic a bit with TSA to actually get this equipment that we need to equip all 4 lanes once we get them. So our goal to have these lanes completed will be the Masters of 2026. So again, that'll be a timeline that you'll hear me talk about quite a bit in the next 20 months or so. The airport has, obviously we have the marshals that provide law enforcement support at the airport. So one of the things that we're very proud about is that we've If you come to the airport, we've got a couple of cute little dogs, but they're black labs, I believe. I'm not a dog person, but we've got 2 dogs, and I've mentioned this to the commission, the Aviation Commission, several times. The larger airports in the country, I worked at Charlotte Airport for several years, they have a formal K-9 program where the Department of Homeland Security supplements the airport. When I was there, it was $60,000 a year for a K-9 program. We don't have that as a small airport, but this is something that we decided that we were going to take out of our own funds because we felt like it was, again, I keep harping back to Masters, but we felt like it was something that was important for our airport to show that level of security presence at the airport. So it's a program that we're pretty proud about. Augusta Airport was recognized in Washington, D.C. earlier this year for the fastest moving airport in our category of airports. We're considered a non-hub airport based on our number of employments that we have, but we were recognized this year as the fastest moving non-hub airport in terms of what they call an air service quality. So we moved from 20th in the previous year to 9th, which was a 58% change in this particular metric that they use to show just air service quality and connectivity. So we're making progress from that perspective. Also this spring, the airport was, we received an upgraded bond rating report through one of our bond rating agencies, Standard & Poor's. So we're now have an A- bond rating, which again, this positions us better in terms of interest rates and in terms of any debt that we may get in the future and more favorable competition for that. The airport has also been a place where we have done quite a few events. So you may have seen some of these, you may have participated in some or may have seen them in the media, but we've had obviously the Augusta Air Show the last couple of years. We've done a 5K run at the airport. We've supported the Augusta Boxing Club. We have Santa fly-in events in the Christmas time. We do a meet-a-machine. We've done blood drives. And this is kind of part of what we wanted to do as an organization, is also to make sure that the airport was an asset for our community, even people that maybe not, maybe they don't fly, maybe they don't use the airport, but it's an opportunity for our facility to reach out to our community. So we're very glad that we're able to do these types of events. And so the last thing that I'll talk about, and we've touched on it a little bit, is the Masters, and that's our, that's the most important thing that we do. And I often say that we squeeze so much into such a small facility that year, each year when we do the Masters. This year was actually a record-breaking year in some ways. So, for example, the throughput, the passengers that we screened in the 10-day period right before and after the Masters this year was almost 24,000 passengers that we screened from the Friday, the week prior to the Masters, the Friday, and that Monday right after Masters, we screened over 24,000 passengers that came to the airport. And also this was a year where we had record, so the screening numbers were a record, but also this year we had almost 6,200 aircraft operations that were logged in our FA facility in and out of this region this year. So that was actually the second largest number. So again, on passenger screenings, we broke records this year, and we were second on aircraft operations, which constitute either a landing or a taking off of an airport. So this was a record year for Masters as well. So there's a lot. These are just a small number of examples, but a lot of good things going on operationally at the airport and things that we're trying to do. And again, I can answer any questions related to this or anything in the airport operation.
Thank you, Director. Colleagues, you have any questions? You have any questions? I want to also grant an opportunity for any board members that are here. If you guys want to add anything or provide any feedback, the floor is certainly open and welcome to you guys. Thank you guys for being here. Is there anything that you'd like to add to today's meeting? Yes, sir. Come on up.
Good morning, Commission. Mr. Mayor, thank you again for hosting this work session.
Just for the record, please.
I'm sorry,
Yes,
Randy Sasser, 3313 Quaker Spring Road,
Thank you, sir.
30907.
Right. You have the floor.
The ordinance that creates Augusta Aviation Commission is woefully in need of updating. So Commissioner Frantham, you were asking what you could do. The bylaws, in my opinion, are very plainly written, using everyday kind of language, not a lot of legalese. The ordinance, I can't tell when the date this was originally created, but it was done early in the 2020s, 2000s, I guess. And it was when we were still discussing the new terminal and stuff like that. And they were transitioning between how the aviation commissions were set up in the past. They're talking about expiration of appointed dates of city members and things like that. It's just not applicable to today. There's also a section that was generated earlier, and then it's duplicated later on, and those definitions don't always properly align. It's using a little bit of non-standard aviation terminology as well, and it doesn't really properly address the business aviation and the private aviation that's associated, and by far that is our most profitable area. We make a lot more money, the city does, the airport does, off of a private aircraft than we do off of the airlines and those seat taxes that we impose. So that would be one thing from the county standpoint. If we could get somebody on the, I'm assuming legal, I don't know who writes ordinances and that type of thing, but it definitely is in need of an update.
Thank you, Mr. Sasser. Chair recognizes Commissioner Franham.
Attorney Mack, what's the process of this and who does it? What do we need to do, that sort of thing?
Well, the process for amending our ordinances would be from the commission would have to authorize the airport people to work with the law department to create these changes for you, and then we would come back before the Augusta Commission with that and see what you want to approve and change, and then we would go for it with it.
So the first is to put it on the agenda for the approval from this body?
Yes,
That's the first
correct.
step?
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll make sure to have a conversation with colleagues, and then we can do it on the 17th. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Guilfoyle.
Not to sidestep anybody, I think it might, I think it needs to be brought up before the airport commission first for their approval for us to ask to help. If that's the process that the body wants to go into, as far as changing the bylaws. But that might be something, Mr. Chairman, you might want to bring up. Okay, that would work. Are we getting close to concluding?
Well, I think we're getting close. Yes, sir. So is there any other input or?
I guess my only thing is like it was in the past up to 20, I don't remember what year it was, 13, 17, I don't know, but this body approved the salary of the executive director as a contract employee. And then over the past 2 or 3 years, that hasn't happened. Mm-hmm. And I guess for me, like, that's the thing of how do we re-implement that to make sure it happens in the future?
I think the implementation should happen based on what the attorney said, that any changes regarding personnel or salary should be approved by this body. Is that correct, Attorney Mack?
Actually, that's one of the sections that we need clarification on, because the 2007 ordinance that was adopted apparently was not the last one that was supposed to be there. So they had the wrong ordinance. So the one that was supposed to be there was for the Augusta Commission to have to approve the executive director's salary. However, the one that we actually codified and adopted in 2007 leaves that power solely to the Aviation Commission. So that's why it stopped coming down here, because looking at the language, they don't have to come down here for approval.
But it came through as like a courtesy up until a few years ago, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so if the chairman puts on there and they say, hey, we want y'all to update the ordinance, you're saying that it'll all be corrected when we do the ordinance update, you believe?
Yes.
If that is one of the topics specifically that the body wants changed, then yes.
Yeah, Okay, thank you, Mayor.
All right, Director?
Mr. Franklin, to my point, if the commission will tell us things, that's where that was coming from. If there's things that you want to see in our bylaws, we'd be foolish not to very strongly consider. So if there are things that you can tell us that you would like to see in our process of reviewing this, then please send that along, and then we can deal with it. I'm a lot of things, and I got a lot of great support this year, but we're not mind readers. So if that is something that needs to be, please let us know, and we'll incorporate it.
All right. Commissioner Guilfoyle, you trying to come back in?
Yeah, I just want to tell Director Judon and Chairman Troutman, the commission, and I got to recognize my former colleague, Bill Fenoy. Thank y'all for your service that you have provided, and thank you for running an efficient department out there at the airport. I'm proud to call Augusta home as well. Thank you.
All right. So, Madam Administrator, I think that concludes our business. Is there anything additional we need to cover today before we adjourn this session? Commissioner Fenoy, would you like to come up, sir? Come on up. We got plenty of time for you. Love to have you. It doesn't matter. You pick. We all know who you are, but for the record, sir, please state your name and address so we'll have you on the official record.
William Fenoy, 1420 Commonwealth Way, Augusta, Georgia, 30815.
Thank you, sir.
And just as information, we mentioned the canines that we have at the airport, and that the person that's in charge of that, his name is Tom Wiedemeyer.
Okay.
Just as information.
That's for information. Thank you for that information. Madam Administrator, is there anything further?
There's not, Mayor Johnson. Thank you all for your time, and for the members of the Augusta Aviation Commission, thank you for your time as well.
Thank you so much. This meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you.